By Thursday morning, there were 2 police cruisers parked outside their perfectly trimmed lawn. I didn't call anyone. I didn't warn them. I didn't even raise my voice the night before. I just handed over a toy and waited for the truth to turn physical. But none of that is where it started. It started with my kid being quiet in a way that didn't match the day. Her birthday morning, the kitchen lights too bright, the air smelling like vanilla frosting and burnt toast because I always mess up toast when I'm nervous. My daughter Lila sat on a stool with her feet swinging, not touching the floor. She had that look kids get when they're trying to be brave about something they can't name. She kept peeling the same sticker off her cup. Press, peel, press, peel. Like she was testing if the world would stay together. "Mom," she said without looking at me, "are you normal today?" That was her word. Normal. Not okay. Not happy. Like she'd already learned there were categories. I laughed. Too quick. "What do you mean, normal?" She shrugged, tiny shoulders up and down. Like, not weird. I smiled, the kind of smile that hurts your cheeks. "I'm not weird." She glanced at my phone on the counter. Face down, like it was guilty. I'd been up late again, emailing my lawyer and rereading paperwork that made my stomach feel like it had claws in it. Not because I wanted to split up our family, because I wanted to stop living inside someone else's excuses. I was still in that phase where I tried to cover instability with decorations. Streamers across the living room, paper plates with cartoon animals. Cupcakes I baked myself even though I don't bake, because buying them felt like admitting I couldn't handle anything. By afternoon, the house was filled with kid noise squeals, running feet, the sound of little bodies crashing into furniture like it owed them money. A few parents lingered, smiling politely, sipping coffee like it was medication. They kept doing that careful glance at my hands, my face, the empty space where my husband used to stand. I used my hosting voice, the one that says, "I'm fine," while my brain is running worst-case scenarios like a playlist. Everything looked normal. Then the delivery showed up. Not a crumpled box. Not a bag with tissue paper. This was clean. Precise. A rigid cube wrapped in pale paper with a satin ribbon tied so perfectly it looked measured. Like whoever did it ironed their socks. My chest tightened before I even read the return label. My husband's parents. They weren't coming to the party. They hadn't stepped foot in my house since the separation talk turned into actual boundaries. But they still knew how to reach into my life without entering it. A note was taped on top. "Open today." Of course. They didn't want their gift opened later, in private, where I could react freely. They wanted it opened here, where other parents would witness my face, where my daughter would light up on camera in their minds, where their love would look like proof of something. So we slid it into the gift pile. Kids opening presents together is chaos in its purest form. Paper tearing, plastic crackling, little voices shouting, "Look," like the world might end if you don't. Lila squealed over a glittery notebook, hugged a soft hoodie, held up a toy microphone like she'd been given a Grammy. Then she picked up the cube. "This one's from," she started, singing the words the way kids do, and then she stopped mid-note. Her fingers went still on the ribbon. She looked at me. Not scared, just checking, like she wanted permission to exist. I nodded, forcing calm. "Go ahead, honey." She untied the bow slowly, not because she cared about the wrapping, because she'd been trained to be careful with anything from them. Inside was a plush animal, a rabbit, gray fur, long ears, a stitched smile that felt slightly too knowing if you stared at it long enough. Lila's face lit up. She adored stuffed animals. Anything soft and quiet that didn't argue back. She hugged it tight. "Oh my gosh," she whispered, like it could hear her. One of the dads chuckled. "That bunny's gonna be her best friend." I laughed. Because that's what you do when someone says a normal thing at a normal party. Lila ran off with it, clutching it like it mattered more than cupcakes, balloons, or the idea of adults being civil. For a while, the day stayed on track. And that's the trick. The danger doesn't announce itself like a villain. It waits until you're relaxed enough to miss the seam. 20 minutes later, Lila appeared in the doorway holding the rabbit out in both hands like it was heavy. Not crying, not panicking, just confused. "Mom," she said quietly. I turned, still mid-smile, still performing. "There's a zipper," she said. My smile froze. Stuffed animals have seams. Sometimes they have Velcro. Sometimes they have a little opening for washing. This wasn't that. This zipper was hidden under the fur, almost invisible. Like it wasn't meant to be found unless a child's curiosity did what adults didn't. Lila pinched it open a little. And through the gap, I saw something that was not stuffing. Hard plastic. A tiny light. A wire curled like a vein. My stomach dropped so fast my knees went weak. I didn't scream. Because behind her, the other kids were still laughing. Parents were still sipping coffee. Someone was asking where the napkins were. And my daughter's face was tilted up at me like I was the final answer. I lowered my voice like she'd shown me a loose button. "Let me see for a second, sweetie." Lila hesitated. "Is it broken?" "No," I lied. "I just want to check." I took the rabbit gently, too gently, like it could explode. "Go play," I said, keeping my face calm. "I'll fix it." She nodded because she trusts me, and that trust felt like glass in my mouth. I walked down the hallway without rushing. Rushing makes people look up. Questions come after rushing. I went into my bedroom, the room that no longer felt like mine. Just neutral territory with my furniture, and closed the door. Only then did my hands start shaking. I sat on the edge of the bed and opened the zipper wider. Plastic casing, a button, a tiny blinking dot. Something designed to listen, something designed to follow. I stared at it, and one thought landed in my chest, heavy and cold. This wasn't an accident. This was a message. Outside my door, I could hear the party noise, kids laughing, someone singing along to a cartoon song. In my lap, the rabbit sat there pretending it was innocent. It wasn't. I zipped it back up, smoothed the fur, and placed it high in my closet where small hands couldn't reach. Then I stood in front of the mirror and practiced my smile, because I still had a birthday party to finish, and because whoever did this wanted me to react wrong. So I didn't. Not yet. That night, after the last guest left, my house felt like it had been emptied out with a spoon. Lila fell asleep fast, sticky hair, sugar crash breathing, murmuring, "Best day," into her pillow. I stood in her doorway longer than usual, watching her chest rise and fall. Then I went back to my room and took the rabbit down. This time I didn't pretend. I opened the zipper, reached inside, and slid the device into my palm. Small, cheap-looking, purposeful, the kind of thing you don't want within 10 feet of your kid. I did what every modern woman does when her life suddenly feels like a thriller. I took photos, close-ups, angles, the tiny numbers on the plastic, the brand name that sounded like a knockoff charger. Then I searched it online. At first, the results didn't feel real. Like I'd typed the wrong thing. Like the universe was glitching, but the words stayed the same. Audio recorder, location tag, remote access. My skin went cold in a slow wave. I pictured Lila hugging the rabbit to her face, whispering secrets into its fur, sleeping with it tucked under her chin like a little guard dog made of fabric. And I pictured my husband's mother's smile, the one she used when she said she was concerned. His parents were polished people, the kind of polished that looks like morality from a distance. When I first met them, I thought they were just intense, traditional, over-involved. They hosted dinners where napkins matched plates. They asked questions that sounded casual but landed like inspections. So, what's your savings plan? Whose name is the mortgage in? Do you keep separate accounts? If I hesitated, his mother would tilt her head and smile like I was a teenager hiding a bad report card. And my husband Evan would just laugh. "That's just how they are," he'd say. "They mean well. He always said mean well like it erased everything. Evan wasn't loud. He wasn't the kind of man people warn you about immediately. He was charming in a soft way, the kind of guy who could talk his way out of trouble and then convince you trouble was imaginary. But money started disappearing. Not in a dramatic, we're losing the house tomorrow way. In a slow, slippery way. Enough to make me check the account again. He always had an explanation. I covered something. I forgot to tell you. It's handled. For a while, I believed him because love makes lies fit. Then my dad died. I wasn't ready, even though adults pretend we're always ready for that. My father left me something practical, and he left something else that mattered more. A protected account meant for Lila's future. Not a huge fortune, not movie money, but enough that it could change her adulthood if it stayed intact. When Evan found out, his whole tone changed overnight. At first, it was gentle. We could borrow a little. It's for her anyway. We'd pay it back. They're smart. Then it got sharper. He had an opportunity. He had a timing issue. He had a situation. Later, when I dug deeper, that situation had a name. Betting. Not a friendly game. Not just for fun. The kind that eats money and then eats your ability to admit you lost. When I said no, his parents stepped in. A good mother uses every resource, his mom said, smiling like she was being kind. His dad would grunt, like the final judge. What's the point of money if you won't use it? Evan would sit there like he was watching a show. That's when I filed for separation, not because I wanted to, because I finally saw the shape of the trap, and even then, I tried to keep it peaceful. I offered fair custody. I offered clean splits. I tried to be the kind of co-parent story people clap for. Evan acted like he agreed. Texted me, "We'll do what's best." Smiled like we were still teammates. I wanted to believe him. For Lila. So, when his parents mailed that rabbit and demanded it be opened at my party, part of me thought it was just a power move. Another way to hover without showing up. I didn't understand yet that they weren't hovering. They were building a case. I didn't call Evan after I found the device, because I already knew how that call would go. He'd deny. He'd sigh. He'd say I was paranoid. Then he'd report back to them, and they'd adjust. So I did something that felt unnatural. I acted like nothing happened. I put the device back inside the rabbit, zipped it up, smoothed the fur, and set it on my dresser like it belonged there. Then I backed up every photo to multiple places, and I stared at my phone until my eyes burned, thinking one steady thought. If they're willing to hide a tracker in a toy, they're willing to do worse. And the worst part? They'd do it with calm faces and concerned voices, so everyone would believe them. The next morning, my lawyer didn't sound surprised. Her name is Dana. She's not warm or cold. She's precise. The kind of woman who can make a sentence feel like a locked door. When I showed her the photos, she didn't gasp. She didn't do a dramatic reaction. She stared, then nodded. "This is serious," she said. "I know." She slid a folder across her desk. "I need you to see what came in," she said. My stomach tightened before I opened it. It was a court filing, from Evan, and it didn't match a single one of his friendly texts. He'd been texting me things like, "Let's keep it easy for her. I'm not trying to fight. We can be adults." In the filing, he was fighting. He was asking for primary custody, not shared, primary. And the reasoning? Concerns about the mother's emotional stability. I stared at the words until they blurred. "He's calling me unstable," I said, and my voice didn't sound like mine. Dana nodded. "He's alleging you're erratic, that you're escalating, that you're hostile toward his family. Hostile. Like finding a listening device in your child's toy is a personality flaw." Dana tapped another section. "He's also requesting decision-making authority over the child's finances." There it was. The future account. The one Evan wasn't supposed to touch. The one his parents kept calling family money, like they could rename it and claim it. My jaw locked so hard my teeth ached. Dana leaned forward. Do you have documentation of his betting? Transfers, withdrawals, messages? Yes, I said immediately. Screenshots, statements, texts. Good, she said. We'll need it. Then she pointed to the toy photos again. And this device, she said. We need to handle properly. Police report, evidence protocols, no confrontations. I exhaled slowly. I wanted to drive to his parents' house and throw the rabbit through their perfect window. But anger is exactly what they wanted to film with their minds. Anger would become instability. Dana's voice lowered. You offered peace, she said. He didn't take it. I stared at the carpet, trying to keep my breathing even. I'm done being easy, I said. Dana didn't smile, but I saw approval in the stillness of her face. Okay, she said. Then we plan. Planning looked like this. File a report about the device. Document every interaction. Assume every conversation is theater. Protect Lila's routine so she doesn't become a pawn. It sounded manageable in the office. It sounded less manageable when Evan texted a few days later about his celebration with Lila. He wanted to take her for a small birthday thing. His parents would be there. He sent a pickup location for later. It sounded normal, almost sweet. And I hated how much I wanted to believe it. That morning, I put a kid's smartwatch on Lila's wrist. Bright color. Chunky strap. It looked like a toy. I crouched in front of her, brushing hair off her forehead. If you feel weird, I said lightly, like I was talking about a scraped knee. Press this button. Okay? She frowned. Why? Just in case you can't find me, I said. Or if you need help fast. Lila looked down at the watch, like it was suddenly a serious object. Like if I'm lost? Like if grown-ups get mixed up, I said. She didn't fully understand. But she nodded once. Solemn. Okay? She said. Okay. When Evan arrived, he stood on my porch like he'd rehearsed being harmless. Hey, he said, smiling. I watched his hands, his eyes, his posture. The way he kept his shoulders relaxed like he was performing calm. Hey, I said back. Lila ran to him. He lifted her and spun her once. For a second, it looked like a normal family moment. The kind you see in ads. Then I noticed something small. He didn't look at me when he said goodbye. Not even a glance. Like eye contact would create a record. He handed me a slip of paper with the pickup address again, printed, not texted. We'll be there, he said. Easy. Text me when you're leaving, I said. Sure, he said. Too smooth. And then, they were gone. The hours crawled. I cleaned the house like cleaning could scrub dread off the walls. When it was time, I drove to the pickup location. It wasn't a house. It was a plain building with blank windows and a parking lot that felt too open. No balloons, no music, no kids. I sat in my car, staring. Maybe it's inside. Maybe I'm early. I checked my phone. No message. I called Evan. No answer. I called again. Nothing. That's when fear stops being an emotion and becomes a physical state, like your bones realize something is wrong before your brain is ready to name it. Then my phone buzzed. Not a text. An SOS alert. My hands went numb as I opened it. Location ping. Not the pickup address. A different place entirely. His parents' neighborhood. My stomach dropped so hard I thought I might throw up. I didn't. I moved. I called the police while my car was already rolling. My child is with her father, I said, voice tight and flat. He gave me a pickup location. He's not there. He's not answering. I just got an SOS location from her watch. The dispatcher asked questions. I answered like a woman reading from a checklist while her insides burned. And the whole time one thought kept repeating. The rabbit wasn't about spying. It was practice. A patrol car was already on their street when I turned the corner. Relief and rage hit me at the same time, and my hands started shaking on the wheel. I parked crooked and ran. Before I could knock, the front door opened. Lila burst out like she'd been holding her breath for an hour. She ran straight into my arms and clung so tight her fingers hurt. I dropped to my knees and held her like I could weld her back into my body. "I'm here," I whispered. "I'm right here." She pulled back just enough to look at me, eyes wet and confused. "Grandma said you didn't come," she choked out. "She said you forgot me." My throat closed. "I came," I said immediately. "I was there. I was looking." Lila's face pinched like she was trying to hold two truths at once and didn't know which one was safer. Behind her, Evan's mother appeared in the doorway, hands clasped like she was hosting a church meeting. "Oh, sweetheart," she said in that soft voice. "This was all a misunderstanding." "I'm Evan's father stood behind her, arms crossed, annoyed like this was an inconvenience. The officer stepped forward, calm, neutral. Evan's mother's smile never moved. "He must have given her the wrong address," she said gently. "We were just trying to keep her comfortable, like my child was a misplaced item." I didn't argue on the porch. I didn't correct her story in front of the officer. Because part of being labeled unstable is reacting in exactly the way they can point to later. I lifted Lila into my arms. "We're going home," I said. Evan's mother's expression flickered just for a second, like she didn't like that I wasn't playing the scene, she wrote. "Of course," she said quickly. "Of course. We just worry. Always concern. Always mean well." In the car, Lila's breathing came in short hiccups. I kept my voice steady, even though my hands were trembling. "You did the right thing," I told her, pressing the button. That was smart. She stared at her watch like it had betrayed her. "I didn't want to," she whispered. But she kept saying, "What did she say?" I asked softly. Lila swallowed. "That you get mad. That you forget. That you don't feel good in your head." My grip tightened on the wheel. I didn't respond with anger. Not out loud. At home, I made hot chocolate. Not because hot chocolate fixes anything. Because it gives small hands something warm to hold while the world stops spinning. Lila sat on the couch, eyes puffy, mug between her palms. "I didn't do anything bad," she said quietly. "No," I said. "You didn't." Then I said the only sentence that mattered. "I will always come." She nodded, but her nod looked like it cost her something. That night, after she fell asleep, I opened the watch app. I expected a timestamp, a location log. What I didn't expect was a file. A little audio attachment connected to the SOS. My finger hovered above it. For 1 second, I thought, maybe don't. Maybe let it stay unknown. Then I pressed play. At first, it was muffled, fabric, movement, a child's breathing. Then Evan's mother's voice slid in, clear enough to make my skin crawl. "You see?" she said gently. "Your mom didn't come." Lila's small voice cracked. "She said she would." "Oh, honey," she murmured. "Sometimes moms say things and don't mean them." A pause. Then her voice shifted, still soft, but different. Like honey turned cold. "If anyone asks," she said, "you tell them your mom forgets things. You tell them she gets upset. You tell them she scares you sometimes." My blood went cold. Evan's father's voice rumbled in the background. "Stop crying." Lila sniffled, then Evan's mother again, patient, coaxing. "You don't have to like saying it," she said, "but it's important. Daddy needs help. We need help. And your mom can't take care of you like we can." I sat perfectly still on my bed, listening. No screaming. No chaos. Just calm, deliberate coaching. A child being shaped into a witness. I stopped the recording. Then I backed it up multiple copies because something in me knew they'd say it was fake the second it mattered. I emailed Dana at an hour people don't email lawyers unless their life is on fire. Then I sat in the dark and listened to the quiet house. And I realized the misunderstanding wasn't a mistake. It was a rehearsal. After that, things got quiet in a way that didn't feel like peace. Evan texted cheerful messages like, "Nothing happened. Glad she's okay. Wild mix-up. Let's not make it bigger than it is." His mother sent a long message full of kindness-shaped words. We only want what's best. We're worried about her stability. We hate conflict. I read it twice, hunting for the sharp parts hidden inside the soft parts. Dana filed motions. The police took the rabbit device as evidence. Everything became paperwork and waiting, which is its own kind of torture. And in the middle of all that, I still had to be a mom. Lila asked one night while brushing her teeth, "Am I going to have 2 houses forever?" I kept my voice light. "We'll figure it out." She stared at her reflection. "Grandma said you don't like me there." My chest tightened. I crouched so. Our faces were level. "Lila," I said carefully, "do you remember what I told you? I will always come." She nodded. "Yeah, and do you remember what you did with the button?" She nodded again. "You did that because your brain said something felt wrong," I said. "Your brain is smart." She looked down at the sink. "Is Grandma bad?" She whispered. There it was. The moral trap. Because how do you tell a child that someone can hug you and still hurt you? That someone can sound kind and still be dangerous? I didn't answer it directly. I said, "Grandma says things she shouldn't, and grown-ups aren't always right." Lila swallowed. Then she said something that made my stomach flip. "The bunny's gone," she said. I froze. "What do you mean? The gray bunny?" she repeated. "I can't find it. The police had it." I hadn't told her that. I just said it was put away. So if she was saying it was gone, that meant someone else had asked about it. Someone had planted the thought. I kept my voice even. "It's put away, remember?" The zipper was weird. Lila nodded slowly. "Grandma said I should have kept it safe. Because it was special." Special. Of course she did. That night, Dana sent me another message. Short. Sharp. Evan was requesting an emergency evaluation. He was claiming I was escalating, harassing, unstable. He was trying to force the system to label my fear as proof. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling until my eyes ached. Then I re-listened to the SOS recording, not because I wanted to torture myself, because I needed to stay sharp. And while I listened, I noticed something I hadn't noticed before. Under their voices, there was a tiny sound, a faint click, then a soft beep, like someone turned something on. Like someone was managing the recording, not just talking. Evan was the tech one. His parents could barely handle a new TV remote without calling him. So, who made the click? I forwarded that observation to Dana and saved the original file untouched, and I sat in the dark thinking one steady thought. They built this plan like a machine, so I needed to beat it with receipts, not feelings. Court didn't care how terrified I was. Court cared what I could prove. By the time we got to the hearing, the story wasn't, she said, they said. It was objects, data, voices, the rabbit with the hidden device, the police report, the device records, the smartwatch audio, my child's small voice trembling while adults coached her to call me unstable. I didn't have to cry on the stand. I didn't have to make a speech. I just answered questions and let the evidence speak in its own cold voice. Evan showed up looking tired in the way men do when they want sympathy for consequences. He wore the concerned father face like a mask. His parents sat behind him, hands folded. Perfect posture, quiet expressions of reason. When the judge asked about the rabbit, Evan's mother spoke softly. "We wanted her to have something comforting," she said. "Comforting." Then, Dana played a short piece of the audio. Not the whole thing. "Enough." Evan's mother's voice filled the courtroom. "You tell them your mom forgets things. You tell them she isn't stable." Evan's face didn't change at first. That detail stuck to me like tar. Because a father hearing his child being manipulated should react. He didn't. Then, the judge asked one question that made the room go silent. Who paired the watch to allow an audio attachment during an SOS event? Evan blinked. "I don't know." Dana didn't argue. She didn't raise her voice. She handed over printed logs. Device pairing timestamps. Setup history. account access, and an IP address that matched the network at Evan's parents' home. A clean line. No yelling, no revenge. Just truth laid flat like a receipt. Evan's mother's mouth opened slightly, then closed. Evan's father stared straight ahead, like the wall was more interesting than accountability. Evan finally looked at me, not with apology, with something colder, like I'd ruined a plan he thought he deserved. The judge didn't give a dramatic lecture. She didn't scold anyone into tears. She just made orders, primary custody to me. Supervised visits for Evan. No unsupervised contact for his parents. The language was clinical, almost boring. But when I walked out of that building, my legs felt weak, like I'd been holding myself upright for months on adrenaline. Lila was waiting with my sister in the lobby. When she saw me, she stood up fast. I didn't dump the adult world on her. I didn't tell her how ugly it was. I just knelt and said, "We're going home." She studied my face like she was searching for the lie. Then she nodded once. That night, after she went to bed, I found something in her backpack that stopped my heart. A folded piece of paper, not schoolwork. A note, written in careful kid handwriting. A list, things to say if people ask. Mom forgets. Mom gets mad. Mom cries a lot. Dad is helping. Grandma says it's important. My throat tightened so hard it hurt. I sat on the floor of her room in the dark, holding that paper like it weighed 50 pounds, because the hearing was over. But the story they planted had already started growing in my daughter's brain. That was the last detail that kept me awake. They didn't just try to take my child legally. They tried to rewrite her memory of me. I put the note into a folder with the other evidence, not because court needed it now, but because I needed to remember what calm cruelty looks like. In the weeks after, Evan used his supervised visits less and less, like parenting was a subscription he kept forgetting to renew. His parents disappeared. No calls, no messages, no concern. It should have felt like relief. Instead, it felt like the air after a storm, too still, too quiet. Like something could start again if you blinked. Lila stopped asking about them. Not with drama, just absence. Kids don't always have language for betrayal. Sometimes they just stop reaching for the hands that hurt them. Months later, I walked past her room one night and heard her whispering. I paused at the door. She was talking to a different stuffed animal, an old dog she'd had since she was tiny. She rubbed its ear between her fingers, calming herself. "I know you're not a camera," she whispered. "You're just you." I didn't go in. I didn't correct her. I just stood there in the hallway with that quiet, heavy rage that doesn't need noise. No celebration, no happy ending. Just a child learning too early that gifts can be weapons, and a mother learning that staying calm is sometimes the only way to win. Before you go, tell me what you would have done. Comment 0 if you think staying quiet and collecting evidence was the right move. Comment 1 if you think I should have confronted them immediately, even if it made me look unstable.